They mocked her scars and called her a freak, until one whisper shattered their lies and lit up the nation. Backhand index pointing right. Where are you watching from? Comment below, like, share, and subscribe for more stories that flip power on its head. Look who crawled out of a fire and into an apron. The voice was loud enough to rattle the silverware. It came from Leonard Pike, a smug executive with a voice made for cruelty and a suit too expensive for the town he was in. He sat with his crew at their usual booth inside Denton's Diner, a small roadside cafe with decent coffee and cheap decency. Except today, decency had taken the day off. They all turned to her, the waitress with the steady hands and the burned scars that crawled up her wrists like ghosts from another life. Her name was Maya Ellis, and she'd heard it all before. Monster. Freak. Meth head. Only this time, Leonard wasn't content to whisper. He wanted the whole room to hear. Careful not to drop that pot, another man smirked, loud enough to earn a chuckle from a third. Those hands look like barbecue leftovers. Maya didn't blink. She poured the coffee with clinical precision, the liquid steady, the silence deafening. What they saw was a woman in a diner uniform. What they didn't see was the fire inside her that had never gone out. They didn't see her memorizing faces, storing voices, noting names. They didn't see the way she catalogued every insult with the precision of a soldier plotting coordinates. To them, she was invisible, the perfect target. But in the far corner of Denton's, a quiet man named Grant Russo watched in growing discomfort. He hadn't intended to stay long, just passing through town, road-worn and tired. But something about Maya's posture, her stillness under fire, struck a memory. A long-buried reflex. He had seen that kind of calm before, on the battlefield. Back at the booth, Leonard leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "Tell us, waitress. What happened to you? Bad boyfriend? Kitchen fire? Drug deal gone wrong?" Maya's eyes flicked up. Just for a second. But in that second, the air shifted. "No accident," she said quietly. "Just work." Her voice was steady. Almost gentle. But there was something in it, steel beneath velvet. The table burst into laughter. "Work? What kind of work burns you like that? Let me guess, bouncer at a nightclub. Or maybe you lit yourself up cooking for your dealer." Maya set the coffee pot down slowly. Her movements never faltered, but Grant noticed the change, the slight shift of her weight, the way her fingers curled, prepared. Calculating. They didn't know what kind of work she'd done. But they were about to find out, eventually. Grant Russo hadn't planned on staying long. Denton's Diner was supposed to be a quick stop, black coffee, maybe some eggs, and back on the road. But the moment he saw her, the waitress with the burn-scarred hands and unwavering posture, something pulled at him. He hadn't recognized her face, but the way she moved, controlled, centered, reminded him of war zones and triage tents. Not the kind of calm you learn from customer service. This was battlefield calm. From his seat near the back, he watched Maya Ellis navigate the storm. The table of executives hadn't let up. Leonard Pike was clearly the ringleader. Loud, entitled, constantly seeking validation from the other two men, Brett and Mason. They laughed like high school bullies with credit cards and company polos. Every Tuesday, they gathered there, Maya had said. Grant could tell, the comfort with which they weaponized cruelty meant this wasn't new. He took a sip of coffee and watched. Maya poured, wiped, moved through tables as if nothing were wrong, but Grant knew better. He'd seen Marines walk through IED blasts with less control. There was no shaking in her fingers, no darting glances. Just focus. Awareness. Readiness. At the booth, Leonard's tone shifted. "So you won't tell us where the scars come from," he sneered. "You just want us to wonder, huh? Want to play the mystery card?" Maya refilled their water glasses with the same precision as before. Her jaw was set, but her voice didn't waver. Some stories aren't safe to share in polite company. Brett whistled. What is that, a threat? No, she said, placing the glass down. A courtesy. That earned a few raised eyebrows from other patrons. A couple turned in their booths. Phones hadn't come out yet, but Grant knew it was only a matter of time. Leonard scoffed. This is why we fire people like you. Always got some chip on your shoulder. Entitled. Like your scars make you special. Grant leaned forward slightly. Something about the way Leonard said fire pinged in his gut. It wasn't about the waitress. This man was used to playing judge and jury. HR lingo mixed with bigotry, a dangerous cocktail. Maya didn't take the bait. She turned to wipe a nearby table. But Grant noticed the shift, the weight on her back foot, the subtle way her eyes scanned reflections in the window. She wasn't scared. She was tracking variables. Then Leonard pulled out his phone. You know what? Let's get a picture. Let the internet decide what kind of monster works here. Smile, sweetheart. Show those fans of yours what you're made of. Grant nearly stood. But Maya turned. And smiled. Not wide. Not angry. Just, cold. Precise. Surgical. You should keep recording, she said softly. I think your followers will want to remember this. Leonard snorted. Oh, they'll remember it. This is gold. Viral gold. Grant saw the exact moment everything shifted. Maya leaned just slightly forward, and her sleeve slid up. Just enough. There, barely visible, was the edge of a tattoo. Faded, but sharp. He knew that ink. His heart kicked in his chest. 1st Tactical Medical Command. The same unit Grant had seen in Fallujah. The medics who ran into fire, not away from it. His hand went to his coffee cup, gripping it tighter. He watched as Leonard kept filming, laughing, boasting about his firm, his clients, the kinds of people he weeded out. And Maya kept collecting. Every word, every slip, every name dropped. Not visibly, but Grant could see it. The mental filing cabinet being filled. Finally, Maya turned to Leonard. What's your name again? Leonard Pike. CEO of Pike & Gray Consulting. Why? Planning to apply for a job there? He laughed. No, she said with a smile. Just wanted to make sure I remembered it correctly. Mason, the quieter one, seemed uncomfortable now. He shifted in his seat. Brett tried to play it off, but his laughter had grown forced. They didn't know it, but the power dynamic had already shifted. They just hadn't noticed the fault line beneath their feet. Maya turned, walking back toward the counter, where Tony, the diner manager, stood frozen behind the register. He looked like he wanted to step in but didn't know how. Grant stood. Quietly. Walked over to the counter. Maya was grabbing a clean rag. Excuse me, he said. She turned, eyes scanning him briefly. Yes, sir. You served with 1st Tactical Medical, didn't you? Her posture tensed, not with fear, but alertness. She studied him. Afghanistan. Kandahar Forward Operating Base. 2011, he said. I was with 3rd Battalion, Infantry. We shared a perimeter for a few weeks. Her expression softened. Barely. I remember. Those were rough days. He offered a hand. Grant Russo. She took it. Maya Ellis. Behind them, Leonard's voice rang again. Oh look, she's recruiting fans now. What, vet buddies here to protect the scary waitress. Grant didn't respond. He kept his eyes on Maya. You don't need my help, he said. But I'd testify for you. Anytime. She nodded once. Appreciate it. Tony leaned in. Maya, you sure you're okay? Never been more sure. At the table, Leonard hit record again. Look, folks, now she's dragging the military into it. This is what victim culture looks like. Scars and sob stories. Maya turned back to the table, slow and measured. And this time, when she stepped forward, her voice dropped to a whisper only Leonard could hear. You think I'm playing a victim? I'm just waiting for you to finish writing your own downfall. Leonard blinked. What's that supposed to mean? Maya looked at the phone. It means, you're giving me everything I need. Keep going. Leonard's laughter faltered. In the background, Grant returned to his seat. He didn't need to intervene. Not yet. He'd seen this kind of operation before, not in a diner, but in cities torn by conflict. This wasn't just retaliation, this was strategy. And the battle had only just begun. Leonard Pike thought he was still in control. The phone in his hand was recording, the attention was his, and the smug smile on his face grew with every passing second. His voice boomed across Denton's diner as he mocked Maya Ellis in front of half a dozen customers, a waitress he had tormented for months. What he didn't know was that the woman standing before him wasn't just a waitress. And she wasn't afraid of him. Maya stood still as the phone's lens pointed at her face. She didn't flinch. Her gaze didn't waver. In her eyes was the same calm you'd find on a sniper's face, when the target stepped perfectly into the open. Keep recording, Mr. Pike, she said quietly. In fact, I insist. Grant Russo sat in the back of the diner, leaning forward in his seat. He could feel it. The shift. The air thickened. He'd seen this kind of composure in military debriefs, just before a commander dropped evidence on the table that unraveled everything. Leonard grinned. Well, look who suddenly found her voice. You want to threaten me? You think anyone's going to care what a scarred-up fry slinger has to say about a man like me? No threats, Maya replied, taking a step closer. Just facts. She turned to Tony, the manager, who was hovering behind the counter, frozen in place. Tony, could you come here for a second? Maya, I don't, you just need to witness this. That's all. Reluctantly, Tony stepped out. He approached the table where Leonard, Brett, and Mason sat, still snickering. Mr. Leonard Pike, CEO of Pike & Gray Consulting, Maya said clearly, her voice rising just enough for the entire diner to hear. You are currently recording me on your personal phone. You have used my name, referred to my physical appearance in derogatory terms, and published this without consent. Do you acknowledge that? Leonard smirked. So what if I do? Thanks, Maya said, turning to Tony. He acknowledged it. What is this? Some legal nonsense. Brett muttered, shifting uncomfortably. Not at all, Maya said smoothly. I just like things documented. Tony blinked. Grant smiled to himself. Tony, Maya continued, can you please bring me my phone from the office drawer? The one labeled, Shift Logs. Tony hesitated, then disappeared into the back. Leonard leaned forward. Trying to file a little complaint? You think the internet cares about some waitress who can't take a joke? No, Maya said. But they do care about a CEO who spends his Tuesdays bragging about illegal hiring practices. That made Mason freeze. Brett looked up. Tony returned and handed Maya her phone. She opened the voice recording app and hit play. Leonard's voice filled the diner. The trick is, you never fire them for being black. You fire them for cultural fit. Document the lateness, make up some nonsense about attitude. Hell, get HR to backdate a few warnings. Easy. A hush fell over the room. Even Leonard looked shaken. His face flushed red. That's a deep fake, he snapped. AI garbage. No, Grant said from across the diner. That's your voice. I've heard it plenty by now. You have no idea what you're starting, Leonard growled. I'm not starting anything, Maya replied. You did. I just hit record. Customers were now pulling out their own phones. A woman at a nearby table whispered, "That's illegal," what he said, right? Highly, Grant said. Leonard stood. You think this will hurt me? I'll have my lawyers on this in an hour. They'll be busy, Maya said. Because I sent those recordings to the Department of Labor, the EEOC, and 3 civil rights attorneys. Grant stood. You're done, Pike. Leonard was no longer smiling. Maya turned to the rest of the diner. Apologies for the interruption, folks. Feel free to finish your meals. And with that, she walked away. The fallout started that afternoon. Within hours of Maya releasing the audio recordings to legal authorities, and a short video montage to social media, the internet did the rest. Hashtags trended. Blogs picked it up. By evening, #PikeExposed was all over Twitter. Leonard's company, Pike & Gray Consulting, lost 3 major clients by nightfall. By the next morning, 10 more had cut ties. Leonard tried damage control. Public statements. Deflection. Accusing Maya of manipulation. But it was too late. The video of him humiliating a visibly scarred war veteran had gone viral. And now the world knew Maya Ellis wasn't just a waitress. She was a decorated former trauma medic with 3 tours in Iraq. And she had receipts. Brett's CPA license was flagged for investigation. Mason deleted all his social accounts within a day. Grant, meanwhile, was busy forwarding Maya's case to old contacts in military legal circles and journalists. She's the real deal, he told one podcaster. And what she's done here. That's tactical brilliance. Tony, the manager, didn't know what hit him. Customers began calling the diner asking for Maya. Veterans drove from nearby counties just to shake her hand. Someone even mailed in a Purple Heart lapel pin with a thank you note. In the back of the diner, Maya remained the same. Steady. Focused. You ready for the next step? Grant asked one morning. Not yet, Maya said. Not until the last piece drops. The last piece came in the form of a lawsuit. Maya filed formal charges against Leonard Pike and his firm for discrimination, workplace harassment, and defamation. Alongside her own case, 12 other former employees, many of whom had quietly endured similar treatment, stepped forward. Their statements painted a picture far worse than anyone had guessed. Leonard had turned discrimination into a business model. And Maya had dismantled it with surgical precision. Television interviews followed. A congressional hearing invitation arrived. Maya's voice, once mocked, now echoed through podcasts, panels, and primetime newscasts. It's not just about me, she said during one segment. It's about everyone who was told they didn't belong because of how they looked, or where they came from. Back at Denton's diner, Tony had added a new wall, the Honor Wall, featuring portraits of local veterans, including Maya in her uniform. Grant visited often, helping Maya sort through job offers, press requests, and support from veteran advocacy groups. But Maya never forgot the booth. The one where Leonard used to sit. The one where he wrote his own downfall with every cruel word. And she never stopped working. Because justice, she believed, wasn't a headline. It was a habit. 6 months later, Denton's diner was known across the country. Not for the coffee. Not for the pie. But for what happened when one underestimated woman decided she'd had enough. Leonard Pike lost everything, his business, reputation, and marriage. Mitchell & Gray was dismantled. Davidson's name became a cautionary tale in business schools. Maya Ellis, meanwhile, had become more than a symbol. She had become a leader. She worked with federal agencies on workplace reform. She spoke at conferences. She launched her own nonprofit for veterans facing employment discrimination. Tony promoted her to general manager, though she still refused to stop serving tables. Some things you don't walk away from, she told Grant. Some things, you honor. One morning, a man in a cheap suit walked in. His eyes were tired. His steps uncertain. It was Leonard. He took a seat at the counter. Maya served him. No anger. No drama. Just a quiet, civil exchange. "Why didn't you tell me who you were?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "Because you were never supposed to treat me better because of what I did in the military. You were supposed to treat me better because I'm a human being." He left without finishing his coffee. Grant watched from across the diner. He didn't speak. There was nothing left to say. And everything had already been said. In a world that often rewards noise over integrity and appearance over substance, Maya Ellis's journey reminds us of the quiet power of dignity, resilience, and moral clarity. She was underestimated not because she lacked value, but because others failed to look beyond the surface. Her scars became a target for mockery, yet they were symbols of sacrifice, survival, and unshakable strength. What began as ridicule from the ignorant became the turning point for a woman who had long prepared in silence, gathering truth, waiting for the moment when justice could speak for itself. This story is not just about exposing injustice. It's about choosing how we respond when the world tries to diminish our worth. Maya didn't retaliate with rage or revenge. She responded with discipline, patience, and precision, the same virtues that made her a hero long before anyone noticed. She showed that true justice doesn't shout, it waits, watches, and acts when the time is right. And when it does, it doesn't just correct wrongs, it transforms lives, communities, and systems. We're reminded here that no one is just anything. Not just a waitress. Not just a veteran. Not just an employee. Every human being carries a story, a depth, a purpose that cannot be seen at first glance. The people we overlook may be the very ones who hold the mirror up to our society's flaws and force change in ways we never expected. For those in their later years who may have experienced similar disregard, or who carry silent wounds from battles fought without recognition, Maya's story is a beacon. It tells us that the fight for respect, fairness, and human dignity never expires with age or title. It evolves. And often, it's the quiet warriors who lead revolutions of the heart and mind. So, if this story touched your spirit, if it stirred a memory, or reminded you of someone strong and unseen, don't let it end here. Push-pin comment below and let us know, where are you watching from? Thumbs up like this video to show your support for voices that refuse to be silenced. Megaphone share it with someone who needs to be reminded of their worth. Bell, and most of all, subscribe and ring the bell for more stories that illuminate truth, courage, and the silent strength inside us all. Because sometimes, the people we overlook are the very ones rewriting history, one quiet act of courage at a time.